back to the recycled cottage and garden, and I thought I'd show you a little more of my world. I have an eBay store and an Etsy store, and actually I have two in each place. One is for my handmade jewelry, and the other is for vintage and odd weird items that I resell. This is one of them. This is a vintage insulator like they used to put up on the light poles. They don't really use this kind anymore. They're fairly collectible. This one I got for free. So we're going to find out how much I can make on it and put it up for sale. But what I wanted to show you, let me back out again, is where I take my photos. You'll see a white backdrop generally works the best unless you have something that is white, and then a darker background or a colored background works. A lot of people set up a lot of different things. Some people use light boxes, which are wonderful if you can afford them. Some people make a homemade light box. Some people just use a white wall behind a table. Whatever works. Mine, since most of the stuff that I do is fairly small, I do with this setup here. And this is a white cotton pillowcase, and it is draped, pardon me while I get up here, I'll show you. It's draped over my computer screen. And let me show you this part. Sorry about that. Okay. And down here you'll see that there's two clothespins attached to it. Those are just for weight, so that it'll hold it across the top of the computer screen without falling down. Works quite well. I also have a navy blue pillowcase that I use for things that are really white or light or just don't show up at all on the white background. Just an easy trick. Now the other thing you'll notice on this was that the pillowcase has creases and wrinkles in it. Generally, it doesn't matter. As long as it's not like a real deep crease and it's not a really, really bad wrinkle of some sort, as long as it's clean, when you're taking a photograph and then you crop your photograph to really show off the item itself, it doesn't really matter if there's wrinkles in the fabric, or at least on this one, because they kind of disappear. Because your item's usually setting far enough away from the backdrop, and the focus is on the item itself, not the backdrop, that it really doesn't seem to be a big problem. Now the other thing that I do is I have a bust. It's a small bust, which is like, it would be like like you see a bust with a head on it. This doesn't have a head, and this is for jewelry, and I can hang a necklace or something on it. And it is it's covered in a fabric, but it's kind of an oatmeal color. And the texture of it sometimes is distracting from the item. Especially if I've got some vintage sterling silver necklaces. And sometimes that background's just too distracting. And you don't notice the item, you just notice the background. So what I do is I will drape this same piece of cloth, this same pillowcase, over. It'll be draped over the computer screen. Sorry, my words are not coming good today. It'll be draped over the computer screen with the bust underneath it, and then I just kind of tuck it around it, and it works perfectly well to display something. Hold on just a second and I'll show you. Okay, here's the bust, and it's just a nice oatmeal color, but when you get up close to it, it's got a texture to it. that in a close-up, if I'm doing a close-up of, say, just a pendant on it, it really distracts. So let me show you what I do with the cover and how I tuck it around it. Okay, there's that same bust, and it is underneath the pillowcase, which just sits in front of the computer screen. And so I get a backdrop over the top of it still, and I just tuck it in around the top and then just straighten it out toward the front. And it gives me a nice backdrop to put a necklace on. I can put a bracelet on it sometimes. I can use a straight pin and a couple of straight pins, and it goes right into the bust, and then I can dangle earrings off of it. Works out quite nicely. So if you're needing some ideas for display, to make photographs to sell online in any shape or form, this is an easy way to do it that doesn't cost much of anything. You know, I got the pillowcases at a little resale shop for $1. You know, you can get a whole pack full of, I think it's 50 clothespins for like 99 cents at the dollar store. Works quite well. And I use clothespins for everything. They come in quite handy. The bust was something I got from a place I used to work, and so that works out nicely. That one didn't cost me anything. The only other props that I have for resale, I have a plate stand. It's a wooden one. I paid a couple of bucks for at a dollar store. And I also have a styrofoam head for when I need to take photographs of hats. And that was, I don't know, the styrofoam head. If you have a store near you that carries them, I know Hobby Lobby used to, and I think they're about $4. I don't have one of those near me any longer, so I ordered one online. And I think it was about $4 or $5. It was pretty cheap. So, you know, that works. You just need something to stick your hat or a wig or a scarf, you know, something like that on, to show it off and do as nice a job as you can. One other trick that I use for, no, the color looks a little weird here. I hope it won't for you. Yeah, another trick that I do is I do a little bit of photoshopping, not on the item itself, but on the backdrop. Okay, like if you look at this right here, and you'll see that parts of my computer screen are showing underneath. If for some reason I'm photographing something and it sticks out a little ways into past the computer screen, past the backdrop, and I wasn't able to get all of it in the shot with the backdrop, then I can put my photograph into, I generally just use paint. I just open it up in paint, and I can go cut out, like say the black areas, pick the color out of that's closest to that area, and then choose that color, and then pick it looks like a paint can, and just drop that color in, and then I can go and use the spray can mode on it. Puts a spray pattern, the biggest one there is, and I can just kind of soften any edges there are so that it just blends into the background and you don't even notice it. But it keeps from distracting away from your item. You've got to have decent pictures if you're going to sell online, because the person can't pick it up and hold it. They don't get to pick it up and look at all over every side, upside down, and which ways. They can only see the images that you put online. So those images need to be clear. They need to be in focus. They need to be from every side, top, bottom, sides, and all sides. I don't care if all sides look the same. You need to have lots of pictures. Generally speaking, I will do 3 to 4 pictures just of the item sitting there. Depends on how much of it I can get in one shot. If it's something with 4 sides, I'll take a picture of all 4 sides. I will also take a picture from the top, and I'll turn it up, lay it down, and I'll take a picture of the bottom. These are really, really good for like knickknacks and cups and, that kind of stuff, because everybody wants to know, are there any issues with it? Are there any flaws in it? Does it have its original label, and what's it look like? Collectors look for that kind of stuff with the knickknack, collectible type stuff that I generally sell. They want to know, they want to see it. You don't want to sell something to somebody and then them be disappointed with it, because you get too many returns, and that's not good, especially on eBay. People won't buy from you if you get negative ratings, or if you can't display it well enough. Although why someone would buy from one really bad photo, and I've seen them on there. They'll have one photo and it'll be out of focus. Who's going to buy that? If you were looking through a catalog and that's all you had to go on, are you going to buy something that's like some out of focus fuzzy picture of an item or a piece of clothing? I wouldn't be able to tell anything about it. So here's some just a little hints and tips here for if you're selling online. And this includes if you're selling on Craigslist or Facebook or something like that. It's the same thing. All you have is your description and your photograph, and that photograph or photographs speak volumes. A lot of people don't even read descriptions anymore. I don't know why, but they don't. They only will go by the photographs. Now, in your description, for those who actually do read them, and especially if you're doing eBay, you're protecting yourself if you do this, you need to be very, very clear about how old the item is if you know, what size it is. That means measure it. Whether that is height and width and depth, its circumference, if it's round. If it's a piece of clothing or something else to wear, like a hat, you want to measure, the length and the width of things. If it's got sleeves, how long are the sleeves? Make sure you write down what size it is if it says. On hats, there is a generalized list of sizes for hats. However, you can just measure the inside of it and just put that in. That's perfectly fine, but you've got to have something. Somebody can go measure their own head to see if it's going to fit before they order it. But you really have to do that. People need to know so that you don't have to deal with returns. Because returns end up costing you money. You can say the customer has to pay for the return, but they'll fight that with eBay. And they'll say, no, I'm not going to, if you haven't put enough in your description to let them know that, what size it is and what condition it's in. You have to protect yourself. So if you're going to sell on eBay, and I suggest if you're selling anywhere else, take this to heart. It really doesn't take that long to be thorough. And better to be thorough than have to deal with upset customers and hassles with returns, and you could be out of pocket for shipping both there and back, and that can get pricey. So you don't want to do that. So just a little helpful hints here on how to take some decent, use some easy, quick, cheap backdrops for your photos. Like I say, a lot of people just use, they'll get like a piece of poster board and stick a piece of poster board up behind it, or make a part of a box with poster board and take their photo in that. Whatever works for you, but a light background seems to be the best normally, and good clear photos. I've got a halfway decent camera. It's got its issues because it's old, but it does work. Most of the phones these days take pretty good pictures. They're better than some that I can take with my camera. But any pictures that you take, you can always improve by using some kind of a program, even the most basic like Paint. And you want to crop your photos if you can to get rid of the excess background that you don't need. If you just look at my mess over here on my desk, there's a lot of stuff sitting there. Well, you don't want all that kind of stuff in there. You don't want to take a picture of something. Say I'm wanting to sell this candle right here. I don't want to take a picture of that camera with all that stuff behind it. Why would I do that? Who's going to be able to tell what's exactly for sale? And how many pictures on Facebook do I see that look like that? No. Use your plain white background. Put your candle there. Ta-da! Take a photograph. Doesn't matter if it has a shadow. You can get past that. I don't worry about the shadows so much. Take a photo and then put it in your computer. And then I use a free service called View. It's an old one. It's been around a while. And from there, you can crop it, which takes you up close to it. So you're taking a photo that, maybe looks like that, and yet you can crop it to, what in reality would be a couple inches around it, around the item. With that, you're going to get a nice clear image without a distracting background. All they're going to see is the item you want to sell. It's not that hard. It doesn't take all that much time, but it's so worth the effort. I could take a weird picture of something that's sitting over here like this with a bunch of junk around it, and I might sell it, but probably not for nearly as much as an item that looks like a pretty professional photograph, even if it's not done by a professional. And I am by no means a professional. I'm a little picky. I used to do this for a living when I worked for somebody else. I'd done eBay for a long time, and I'd had an Etsy store for a long time. But the last job that I had, I spent 4 years doing nothing but eBay for a very small little company. So I know what I'm talking about when I talk about eBay. I have a lot of experience there. So just a few little quick tips for you. Easy little things that you can do to improve, your image that you're using to sell your items.